Welcome back to Maths in an Empty Classroom with me, Mr. Southern. This is part 2 on probability Venn diagrams, and in this video we're going to be looking at how to put those formulae we talked about in video 1 into practice on an actual question with numbers. So here we go then. We've been given that events A and B are independent, and the probability of A is 0.3, and the probability of A intersect B is 0.12. So before I do anything else, I'm going to label this Venn diagram with event A and event B. I've been given that the intersection of A and B is 0.12, so that goes in the middle. And I've been given that the probability of A is 0.3. Now bear in mind that's the whole A section here, so it's not 0.3 there, it's 0.18, because the 0.18 and the 0.12 add to 0.3 in total. Okay, so that's a good start. Now, the next thing that I've been told is that A and B are independent. And as soon as I see the word independent when I'm doing a Venn diagram question, I need to think what that is telling me is that the probability of A multiplied by the probability of B is equal to the probability of A intersect B. And I know two of those values, which means I can work out the third one. I know that the probability of A is 0.3. I don't know the probability of B at the moment, but I know that the probability of the intersection is 0.12. So if I divide 0.12 by 0.3, I can find out that the probability of B is 0.4. Now I've got to be a little bit careful here because I can't just write 0.4 in this section. The probability of B is the whole B circle here. So it's not 0.4 here, it's 0.28. which is 0.4 subtract 0.12. Those two values add up there to 0.4. Now I know that I've got those three values and they add up to 0.58. That tells me that the bit outside the two circles but inside the Venn diagram is 0.42 because all those probabilities have got to add up to 1. Okay, so now I've got a fully labelled Venn diagram. I can start looking at some of these questions for what probabilities are. So, probability of B, well, we've done that by doing the independence equation over there. We know the probability of B is 0.4. Next up, A union B. Now, A or B or both, so that's everything inside the circles on the Venn diagram, so that's the 0.58. Okay, part C, the probability of not A intersect B. So we've got to not be in A, but we are in B, so it's this bit here. It's the 0.28. Not in A, but we are in B. Next up, A intersect not B. So we are in A, but we're not in B. That must just be that 0.18 there. Part E, probability of not A intersect not B. So we're not in A and we're not in B. We must be the bit on the outside, which is 0.42. Okay, for F, right, the union of not A and not B. I dealt with how to do this in my previous video, so feel free to go back and watch that if you wish. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to do a little copy of that Venn diagram over here for part E. Sorry, no, not part E, part F. Just so we can talk about the how to get this section out of the Venn diagram with the ticking that we did in the previous video. So, not A, union, not B. So we'll tick the bits that are not in A, and we'll tick the bits that are not in B. 2 ticks is the intersection, that's the bit we did in part E. Any tick is the union, so it's everything except that 0.12 in the middle, which is 0.88. Just chop that there for completeness. Okay, moving on. Right, so this one here, we've got a not going on the outside, so we've got the intersection of not A and not B, but not that. Well, the intersection of not A and not B is the 0.42 that we worked out in part E. So if it's not that, it must just be 1 minus that probability, so 0.58. Similar kind of thing going on here with H. So H is not A union B, but not that. So we're just going to have to think a little bit about what the union of not A and not B looks like. So I'm just going to do another of the same Venn diagram. And pop that down here for H, which is the probability of not A union B, but not that. Right, so let's have a think about not A union B. So not A is this bit and this bit, B is this bit and this bit. That's the union of not A and B. So if we want not that, everything except that, it must just be the only bit we haven't ticked, which is 0.18. Cool, so that's H done, let's just jot that up there. Okay, we're coming up to some conditional probability ones now, and I know I gave you a formula in the previous video, but for this one, I think it's actually useful to just inspect the Venn diagram. So we'll just get another copy of it. I'm going to end up with loads of these, that's okay though. And I'm looking at part I, which is the probability of not B given the union of A and B. Right then, now the union of A and B, we're given that it's in the union, so it's in this section here, and we know that that is 0.58, so that's what the probability is out of. So this is saying to us, given that we know we're already in here, what's the probability that we're not in B? Well, we're not in B if we're in that 0.18 section. So our numerator becomes 0.18, and that simplifies down as a fraction to 9/29, and I'll give that answer as a fraction. That's absolutely fine. Let's have a look at what J was. A given not A union B. I'll just check that before I go there. Right, given the probability of not A union B. So, not A union B, let's just have a little think about this then. So not A is this bit and this bit, B is this bit and this bit, so that's what we're out of before we start. So that is out of 0.82, which is all those probabilities added up. And we're saying the probability that we're in A, given that we're in the union of not A and B. So what's the probability that in these sections we're in A? Well, it's the 0.12. So that's going to simplify down as a fraction to 6/41. Lovely. Right, let's get another Venn. It's gone all the way up there, look, there we go, we'll just drag it down. And we're looking at K, which is A intersect B given A. Right, so given that we're in A, we know we're in A, so this is out of 0.3, because that's the probability of A, and the probability that we're in the intersection of A and B is this bit here, which is the 0.12, so that's going to simplify down nicely to, I think it's 2/5, isn't it? Yeah, 2/5. Nice. And I haven't marked that Venn diagram with anything, so I can use it for L, which is the probability of A union B, given that we're not in A. Right, okay, so given that we're not in A, we're not in A, we're in either here or here, so it's out of 0.7, which is the bit that's not A. But the probability that we're in the union of A and B, given that we're not in A, we're only choosing out of these two sections, that's the bit that's in the union of A and B, so 0.28 is what we get on our numerator, which by a canny coincidence is also 2/5. So there you go, lots going on in that question, but my logic was let's hit loads of things all at the same time, and hopefully you're happy with the conditional probability formula after that. I'll see you in the next video.